I can't go through life and like never have another bagel or like that was one of our rituals.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dominique, and welcome to Eat With Dominique, the podcast for women with gluten sensitivities, IBS, and other gut challenges who want to eat confidently and pain-free. Today, I'm sitting down with Michelle Carfagno, founder of the Greater Knead. Michelle is the woman redefining what gluten-free bagels and soft pretzels can taste like for the gluten-free and allergy-friendly community. Michelle shares how her sister and grandfather's celiac diagnoses changed everything. Why she was determined to create a product that's completely top 9 allergen free. And yes, we talk about the potential donut launch. Be sure to listen all the way through for a special 15% off code exclusively for Eat with Dominique listeners. I can't wait for you to hear this. So, without further ado, grab a seat and let's eat with Dominique. Before I went gluten-free, like one of my favorite snacks was like a soft pretzel. I was at Sprouts one day, like on a whim, decided to look for them. And I saw the Greater Knead, which was just so exciting. What for you was like missing or broken about gluten-free food when you started the Greater Knead? And kind of what made you say, okay, like I need to fix this?
Yeah, well, exactly. Your experience was my experience. And so it started out, my sister and my grandfather were diagnosed with celiac disease. So that's what got me even knowing what gluten-free was and watching their experience and their pain of like missing out on our favorite foods as a family was always bagels, being East Coast born and raised, and
Mm-hmm.
then soft pretzels. So we started with our line of bagels. That started in 2012, and it really was just about this simple mission of recreating my family's favorite food, but free of all of the allergens. And then as time went on, I realized that I have a gluten intolerance, a dairy intolerance, and so then it became even more personal. And then during COVID, we created the soft pretzel, which is how you found us. And both of those products are just things that I personally missed so much. And I know how hard it is to feel isolated when you can't eat a food that you used to love and enjoy. And food makes us so happy, you
It
know?
does. It definitely does. So you kind of touched on this a bit there, but like you didn't kind of set out to start a food company, right? Like you were kind of addressing this problem like your sister and your grandfather had with celiac, and then you yourself had it. What do you remember, I guess, about that very first like gluten-free bagel that you made, and how is it different than what you were used to eating?
Yeah, so I always loved baking for as long as I could remember. So I think when that problem presented itself in my family, I was like, oh, this would be really fun for me just personally to play with. I was working in human resources at the time, didn't really intend to have a brand or a baking business. I honestly didn't even understand what it meant to have a product on
Right.
the shelf and, just a home baker enjoying my passion for baking and sharing my food. But at that time, I was like, okay, maybe like how hard could this be? And when I saw the joy that it brought to their face and then sharing it with others, I was like, okay, I am determined to scale this and make a go of it and see if I could share it with more people. And it just started to become really clear. It was like my life was just starting to align in a way that it was like, you know what? Like I was 27.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to. Like I didn't start a family yet. I didn't really plant roots yet. And I was like, this is the perfect time. And where I started was just really focused on gluten free, and where it evolved to was really making a bigger claim of being free from the top 9 allergens. I'd met so many people when I would go and demo at Whole Foods or just different events sharing my product. People would say, oh, my daughter has a tree nut allergy or a
Mm-hmm.
peanut allergy. I have a dairy intolerance, egg. And I'm like, oh, well, we're free from all of those. And I realized that, to say free from all of those and make that claim made in a dedicated facility, that was really something that we could do to
Right.
differentiate and connect with a community that is really like struggling to find safe food. So that's kind of how it's evolved in the early days of like the first formula to what we do now.
Yeah. I feel like that's what's so amazing about your product. Like I have some friends who also have other food allergies that are not gluten. And it's great because we can like with your product like yours, like we can recommend it to each other and we know like everyone can have it. And like you said, it creates an experience where we can all enjoy food together in a way that like when you before brands like yours existed, we couldn't really do.
Yeah, that was exactly our intention. So that makes me so happy to hear that that's been your experience because it's like, can we check all of those boxes, have a really high quality product, but something that everybody can enjoy together. So you don't have to buy five different types of bagels for,
Yeah.
even if you have somebody who's vegan or, severe like sesame allergy. There's so many like restrictive things out there that can affect somebody. So our goal was really to check all of those boxes, make it safe for everybody at the table.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned like how the facilities that you guys make your products in, like what would you say in addition to that, what makes the Greater Need different from other brands?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely making it ourselves is like very unheard of.
Hmm.
Not something that I intended to do. It's very typical that you would outsource the manufacturing, and really just focus on brand building. And it was sort of out of necessity. We kind of didn't have a choice. There wasn't a factory that we could go to, especially at
Hmm.
that time, 13 years ago, that was allergen free. And I thought, I don't want to say made in the same facility with or may
Right.
contain. I felt like those statements that just takes away from who we are. So that was a really big thing for us. And I think, like what a lot of people don't realize is that we're still a small team and we care and there is love in that product. And
Hmm.
hopefully you can taste the difference. And while it has been the greatest challenge of my life growing and scaling and manufacturing ourselves because I don't know machines and it has just been such a crazy roller coaster, but I am so proud and grateful for that. And I know I trust me and I trust my team. And so the integrity that we can put behind our name and what we do, like I lay my head on that pillow and I go, okay, like we're doing the right thing. It's really hard, but we're doing it right. It takes time. It's
Hmm.
frustrating. I wish I had, this crazy growth trajectory that I could keep up with and scale quickly, but we're growing it the way that we're supposed to and staying true to ourselves. And I think that that's really what sets us apart and makes us different. And, we're a community of people who care and are really trying to do good work,
Yeah.
and care about what we're putting out there.
Yeah. So are you guys, is it genuinely like your own facility? Like you guys, like you, wow, that's incredible. That's very
Yeah, so
cool.
we lease a space right outside of Philadelphia. And so the building is all completely ours. We're doing all of our manufacturing there. For a little bit, we actually were manufacturing for other brands. This
Oh,
was
wow.
before COVID, because I had found, I love helping people and
Hmm.
connecting with other people. I just feel like we can all grow together,
Hmm.
and we're a team in this. And if more allergen-free products were out there in the marketplace, like we all benefit from that. The Greater Need doesn't need to make cookies and all of these other things.
Hmm.
And so can we highlight these other brands that are? And so I connected with a lot of other women-owned businesses that were allergen-free. And for a while, we were manufacturing their product. And it was beautiful. It was a great time. And then COVID kind of just changed the dynamic of just businesses. Some of those businesses went under,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And so we just kind of had to focus more on our products. And then that's when we launched the soft pretzel. But we've always done it ourselves painstakingly. And sometimes, I do question like, oh, it would be easier, but sometimes the easier path isn't always the best path. And so like I said, I'm grateful for the challenges most days. And
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely like been a great experience doing it ourselves.
Yeah. That's incredible. I didn't realize you guys were, like you said, like doing it for other people. And I feel like that's what helps make these products so accessible to consumers like myself, where like you guys all work together and just create these amazing like foods that we can all
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah, like we're still on a mission to continue to do that. Right now, we're going through some growing pains for our own self, which is a great problem to have.
Hmm.
I'm really hoping that we can come out on the other side of that and continue to start collaborating a little bit more like we were in the past, because I did, one of those sentiments was pretty much what you just said. It's like, if there's more allergen-free products out there, we all benefit. And if the
Right.
Greater Need, like our name is literally like, what could we do to serve the greater need
Yeah.
of that consumer? And that is one way that we achieve that. And so there's just so many things that we can do as a brand, as a company that really align with our mission. So I'm definitely not done yet. That is something that I intend to do more of, but we sort of had to put it a little bit on pause to focus on ourselves a little bit at the moment, just as we scale.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you said earlier. You said like so your grandfather and your sister found out they had celiac, and then you found out you had a gluten allergy and a dairy allergy. I guess what was your gut health journey like before the Greater Need existed?
Yeah, I always had like gut issues and eczema and headaches and just like obscure symptoms. A lot of bloating, things like that. And I don't know that I ever really correlated all of that. Growing up for me, like I was born in 85. So, in the 90s and the early 2000s, like people weren't talking so much, or at least it wasn't really hitting like my circle and my world of where
Hmm.
I grew up. And it wasn't until I got into college that I even understood like more about gut health and I think the rise of social media, obviously, like word spreads a lot faster now on different things, and you get to see how other people are eating, not just in your own community, but in the world. And
Hmm.
so I think that opened my eyes. And as an experiment, when I learned about gluten-free and my sister, my grandfather diagnosed with celiac disease, of course, my sister's like, "Hey, I feel really great doing this. You might have celiac disease too." And I did do some genetic testing and some other testing, and I found that I more likely have just an intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
But I started cutting it out, and I noticed like these headaches were going away, my
Hmm.
eczema was going away, and so I had these like I would get like so tired in the middle of the day, like almost like narcolepsy, where like I
Hmm.
couldn't drive after I ate lunch.
Right.
And it would be after I would be eating sandwiches and pasta and things like that for lunch. And when I made those shifts, I felt so much better. And so, and I'm still learning. Like there were periods of time where there were other foods that were causing issues, like avocado for a little bit.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
couldn't tolerate. Just weird things that have popped up. I have a lot of like seasonal allergies too. So
Hmm.
there's certain fruits that I can't have if they're raw. I have what's called
Hmm.
oral allergy syndrome.
Oh,
And I always forget that I have that
yeah.
when people ask, I'm like, oh right, I have that too, but it's been so long that I just don't eat raw apples.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey of kind of figuring it out. And I found that a lot of people have sort of done the same thing. Like intolerances are a little more vague in where it's like process of elimination, see what you
Hmm.
feel better with. And so like I do also try to avoid soy. Like I have noticed that my headaches seem to sometimes be more related to that. So it's definitely been like trial and error for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Like you said, like there's so many weird sensitivities I feel like that we can all have. And like again, like having a product like yours that's like top nine allergen free and just trying to address as much as you can, I think is really important. And also just allowing people to be aware of these uh gut challenges they might be dealing with as well.
Yeah, sometimes you don't realize how much is related to food. I mean, I think as a
Right.
culture, we are starting to do that now, but it was
Hmm.
the conversations that we were having years ago. It was like, really, that could be related to what you're eating. And it's like,
Yeah.
it sounds so silly to say that now. Like, of course, what you
Hmm.
put in your body affects your skin, like, everything. Even your like mental well-being and things like that. Like, there's higher rates of depression and things that can come up if your gut is not balanced properly, right? Because a lot of those hormones are made in your gut. And so
Hmm.
that relationship between like gut health, mental health, physical health, like I can't believe it was so disjointed. And it's such a great time to be around and learning this stuff. And now that like there's more research that's linking all of those things together. And I think just people feeling better overall as,
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of people that I'm talking to, this has been such a game changer and a life changer for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're right. It is crazy like how connected everything is to the gut. Like I don't know if there's something like it's almost like the second brain in a way because it is just like directly
Right.
connected to everything else. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it always has been, but for some reason we've like dissected it,
Yeah.
But when you look at like our animals and our dogs, like it, that's so simple still.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, of course you see how what they eat affects them. And a lot of dogs have like food allergies, and mine ended up developing one later
Hmm.
in life to like chicken. And
Hmm.
so it's just so interesting to see like, of course that stuff, does affect us. And humans, yes, we're very complex, but I think it starts with like, what are you eating and what are you consuming?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So you've been running the Greater Need for 13 years and counting, which is really incredible. What's something about building a brand that you would say like no one warned you about? And then what would you say maybe was like way less scary than you thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I didn't understand was that there's always problems.
Mm,
And the problems that I had when I first started seem like, oh, nothing,
hmm
today. But they were so big, and it's all really this game of resilience. And
hmm
that's such an important thing to have this resilience, this grit, this determination. And I think that's also why you really need to be so passionate about what it is that you're doing, because it's hard to find resilience if it's just not something that you love. And so it needs to be just so authentically passion and excitement so that you can get through those really hard days. And I think for me, I was always looking for like when things get easier, right?
hmm
I'll know that like I really made it. And that hasn't happened yet.
hmm
And I think it would have been nice to know that like it won't get easier. You will just continue to build resilience.
hmm
And if you are scaling, if you are growing, and when we think about this, even just as people, when we're growing as individuals, working on ourselves, it's uncomfortable, it's messy, we make mistakes, and it's hard. If
hmm
we were trying to stay the same, life would be easy. We don't rock the boat. We just do the same thing all the time. But when you're growing a brand,
hmm
you're constantly pushing yourself to the next level, to the next level. So there's always going to be something new that comes up that you weren't expecting, new territory. And that's also what's so exciting about it. So there's this thrill and excitement, but it can be, you can quickly burn out if you don't find this balance of like, that resilience and that excitement and taking a step back. So that was really tough. And then I think the thing that maybe I thought was more scary than it was taking that leap of faith.
hmm
I
hmm
remember in the early days, man, like I was very emotional about like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? And I think betting on myself was like the best decision that I
hmm
ever made. And there's this freedom and beautiful like growth journey that I have been able to be on personally and professionally
hmm
by putting myself sort of through this.
hmm
And that was a little bit easier, like betting on myself and, build like being confident in what I'm doing, like that was easier than I thought once I took the steps. I think like every day, you're like, okay, the first step is just do it, like quit your job, and I
hmm
slowly transitioned. I wasn't like, oh, day one, I'm quitting, right? I mean,
hmm
you do have to be smart, you have bills to pay, whatever. But when I finally was like, okay, it's time. I
hmm
had this goal, I hit the goal, it was time to go full time into the Greater Need. I was so scared, but it was like each day, oh, okay, like
hmm
it's okay, it's working. All right, here we go. Like it wasn't as hard. It's like one foot in front of the other, day by day. Like don't get too ahead of it. Don't beat yourself up too much for the past. Like you got to really just stay in that present moment. And the more that you can do that in life in general, the happier that you'll be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really true. I mean, I feel like it is interesting how I feel like it's sometimes we'll get over our skis, like the saying goes, where you're like, oh, like, and then this, and then this, and
Hmm.
then that, where it's like you're saying, if you just stay like in the moment and remember like it's one step at a time and have a plan and like follow the plan, then I feel like it tends to work out.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Like it's easier than you think, but there's also some challenges and curveballs that you weren't planning.
Right.
And that is just part of building that resilience muscle. And I do believe that that is a muscle that you can build. It's something you can strengthen over time.
hmm
Maybe some people it comes more naturally too. I was just so determined and I had this chip on my shoulder to like not go back that
hmm
I was like,
hmm
no, I'm just gonna figure this out. And now that is getting a little bit easier and I feel like I'm flowing a little bit better with the challenges. It's like the waves exist.
hmm
But if you're ever caught in a rip current, you're not supposed to try to swim against it, right? You're
Right.
supposed to go with it. And I really have used that as a metaphor for
hmm
growing a business lately because the more you fight it, the worse it's going to get. You just got to
Yeah.
go with the flow. Just take it as it comes. Sometimes it doesn't seem so clear what to do, but cooler heads prevail. Calm
Hmm.
down, take a moment, and the answer will come to you. And there's been
Right.
so many times when that has been true for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. That's very true. So kind of what you're getting at, like kind of the idea of trusting your gut, about like what you put into your body, but also like as you grow and build this business has been really central to your mission the entire time. You stayed committed to using real ingredients and to really doing what's best for the gluten-free, gut-friendly community, even when I imagine like it might have been easier to compromise sometimes, like in how you make the products or things like that. Did you ever face any like pushback when you were kind of staying on that path? And did it ever seem like, wait, like this might not work?
Yeah, I think that has been an interesting part that I wasn't aware of in the food industry as just an
Hmm.
average consumer. I think that we're understanding more and more now. Like people are questioning the word like natural flavors and
Hmm.
artificial food colorings and different things like that. But there's still so much more that as a food brand, you start to see the food science behind it. And
Hmm.
science can get a little weird.
Hmm.
Science is like, okay, should we be eating that ingredient? It hasn't really been thoroughly researched, but it does help with gluten-free. And so it's this constant balance. And at the end of the day, we always just have to make like, what is the best decision for the end consumer, for the business? And there's always like a cost in which people will be willing to pay too. So, for us, it would be easier, let's just say, or potential for more revenue if we added some ingredients into our product. One, to make it cheaper.
Hmm.
So just kind of cheapen some of the things like we're using, 100% olive oil. We
Hmm.
could use canola oil. We could use other types of oils that maybe aren't as great.
Hmm.
But we choose, to keep it at 100% olive oil. It's a lot more expensive though. And so those are decisions that we make that might limit where we can sell our product, how much
Hmm.
we can sell the product because we can only get it to a certain price point. And that's
Hmm.
really hard, right? Like consumers are like, "Oh, your products are expensive. Like this is really hard." And there's this push-pull because we have a community of people who really need allergen-free options. Maybe
Hmm.
they're willing to compromise on some quality just to have an affordable option. And I'm very cognizant of that. And so
Hmm.
we've always balanced it. Like, for example, for a little bit of time, and we typically ask the consumer. And so the example of this was like rainbow bagels were this huge thing. They're still out there, but there was like a big craze of rainbow bagels, maybe like I feel like it was at least 5+ years ago now.
Hmm.
And we had so many parents reaching out to us, can you do a rainbow bagel? And I personally was like, well, the only way to get those rainbow hues is to use artificial food coloring
Right.
because the natural food coloring, you can get colors, but they don't typically stay in the product when you bake. So
Hmm.
we had two versions of a bagel. I was like, look, I will let you guys choose what you want, and we'll
Hmm.
just be very clear about it. So we had the really bright, vibrant one that had artificial food coloring, but it had the blues, the purples, the pinks, yellow, and we called that our unicorn bagel. And then we had
Hmm.
what we called our sunrise bagel because the only colors that didn't bake out were red, orange, and like a yellowish
Hmm.
hue.
Hmm.
And the unicorn bagel outsold the sunrise bagel, right?
Hmm.
Like the conversations I was having with these parents were my kid sees everybody else eating this and they
Hmm.
just want that experience, right? And life is all about that balance, right? The 80/20 rule. So
Hmm.
I'm not here to tell people, oh, don't ever have an artificial color, right?
Hmm.
But I just want to make sure like we're providing knowledge, options, and we're collaborating with what people actually want. And so I thought it was interesting, to sort of like see that. And eventually, those products were really hard to make. We had to like hand make them all, so we don't do them anymore. But I thought that was like one experiment, that okay, we compromise a little bit, but in collaboration,
Hmm.
we offered
Hmm.
two options. But more sort of behind the scenes for us, yeah, there's been a lot of people who have said, if you can get to the bread aisle, so we're in the
Hmm.
freezer aisle, it's a very
Hmm.
small space, very limited. It's hard to compete there because space, because it's limited, is at a premium.
Hmm.
And so, yes, it would be slightly less competitive, more space available in the stores. And then what they say, faster turns in the store when you are in the bread aisle.
Hmm.
And what it takes to do that. we haven't figured out the balance of not compromising our values and adding
Right.
ingredients that we just don't believe in. That's not to say that we're still not trying because science is amazing and
Mm-hmm.
we're still working on, is there an ingredient out there that can extend it? Maybe we're not going to get 60 days of shelf life, but can we get to like 14 with the right type of packaging?
Mm-hmm.
And a mixture of some ingredients that we feel good about. And so I feel like that's our challenge, is to push back. Like, yes, it's easy for someone to tell us do this, this, and this, because this is what everybody else does. This is what the big companies do. Like, to scale, this is just what you have to do. That's why small businesses are really booming right now, especially in the food industry,
Mm-hmm.
because we're like, no, you know what? If I'm not going to compromise on certain things, or I'm going to continue to push to find a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. Like, we just updated our product. We just did a whole rebrand where we
Mm-hmm.
did updated our packaging and our logo. And a big thing that we did was we were looking at our formula. Our product just wasn't rising as much.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot that we could have put in there to solve that problem. And some of them were making compromises on our allergens, right? Like egg
Mm-hmm.
whites can do wonder on getting bread to lift without gluten. But I was like, well, I'm not willing to do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so scratch that off. But I also was like, there were different ingredients that we were playing with. Like, people were like, oh, try pea protein or try
Mm-hmm.
these other types of proteins. Now, there's nothing wrong with pea protein, but for the food allergy community, it's a cross-reactive protein to
Mm.
peanuts. And
Oh,
so I
okay.
knew, like, again, it can't please everybody, but I was like, but
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have to use it, that'd be great. And
Right.
we pushed and pushed and pushed, and we were able to update our formula and the rise of the bagel without actually changing ingredients. We
Wow.
changed like specs. So like a different tapioca starch blended in a different country has
Mhm.
different properties,
Oh,
right? So
wow.
we learned, like, yeah, crazy things like that we learned,
Yeah.
but we only learned that because we refused to just do what everybody else does. And yeah, everybody adds this methyl cellulose or HPMC, and don't even ask me what that is because I don't even understand it. But you'll see it a lot on a lot of packages out there, and it's up all the way at the bottom, and maybe it's less than 1%. And again, like, if the consumers want convenience over quality, I understand that. Like, I'm not shaming that at all because sometimes we just want convenience.
Hmm.
But for us, like, who the Greater Knead is, I was like, no, I think we're gonna like draw our lines in the sand. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how we've looked at it.
Yeah. That is fascinating about different tapioca starches rising in different ways.
Yeah.
Like I did not know that.
Yeah, I know. I only recently learned that. So it's like every day we learn something new.
Yeah. So I know like you just said like you're constantly rebranding and reiterating. What were like the very first versions of the Greater Need products like? And I guess how are they different than what we're all eating today?
Yeah, the very first products are actually pretty similar to today because they were hand rolled.
Wow.
And one thing that I learned, when you hand make a product versus machining it, there's a lot that goes into how it could change the molecular structure of like what's happening
Hmm.
in the product. And that's why a lot of bakeries, you're seeing them like hand make products, but when you get to scale where you're trying to be a brand on the shelf, and the name of the game when you're manufacturing is volume. That's how you
Hmm.
make money.
Hmm.
But you can't get to volume making stuff by hand. Like,
Right.
that's very hard, and not a lot of people are willing to pay the price of what that would cost.
Hmm.
So that was a big thing that we had to go through this journey. What we found was that the machines put a lot of compression on the dough, and there was a good period of time where our product got denser,
Mm.
smaller. We weren't getting a good rise, which is why, I sort of woke up one day and I was like, this is not the product that I put out there,
Hmm.
12 years ago at that time. And I was like, no, like, slowly. It happened very, very slowly over
Right.
the course of 12 years. And I was looking back at pictures of when I first started and seeing the texture of the product. I'm like,
Mm.
wait, how did we get here? We used to have this beautiful rise. Like, what changed? And
Right.
that's when that forced us to look at, well, where are we sourcing the ingredients, and what
Mm.
type of yeast are we using, and how has that changed over time? And how are we machining it versus hand rolling, and how do we put the least amount of stress on the product? And so it was a lot about process,
Right.
but I'm happy to say that, like, the goal was always kind of getting back to where we started. And that's been kind of the theme for 2025, was like getting back to our roots and who
Hmm.
we are.
Hmm.
And when it was just me in the kitchen, hand making these with like a dream, like one day,
Yeah.
and then time sort of gets away from you and you get busy on other things. And, I have a great team, but, they're making decisions on their own because they have to. And
Hmm.
slowly things start to change. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is not what I intended to put out there. And I'm not saying that the product was bad, but it certainly just wasn't exactly the way that we
Right.
had started. So that has been interesting to sort of watch and be mindful of like keeping an eye on staying true to like what made you successful to begin with and
Hmm.
really getting those pillars like straight so that you don't stray from them as you scale and grow a company.
Yeah. I guess how do you know when it's time to like introduce a new product? Or like 'cause you mentioned like you added the soft pretzels and because you really liked them.
Yeah.
Like how do you know when it's time?
Yeah, I mean, for us right now, it'll probably be a little while before we add something new because we're just so busy with scaling.
Hmm.
I think it's sort of different, I think, for every business because we do our own manufacturing,
Hmm.
we have to figure everything out from scratch if we're making
Right.
it. So
Wow.
it takes us a lot longer versus if we had a manufacturer who was co-packing for us that
Mm.
specializes in donuts, we could be like, okay, we want to launch donuts by 2026, like, and we could probably get that done a little bit quicker. They have the machines for it. Like all of that we have to figure out. So it does slow us down a little bit. But the pretzels, I'd always wanted to do pretzels, but it
Hmm.
took 10 years because
Mm.
we just didn't have time.
Right.
And but I remember, so in the early days, it was probably like my second year in business. I had a formula and I kind of messed up my bagel formula a little bit, and they came out and they kind of tasted like pretzels. And
Oh,
I
wow.
in my notebook, I still have it here. I have like this would be a really great pretzel formula. Like save this one day. And
Yeah.
so when I was sitting at home during COVID, I wasn't going into the office. We were still producing, but I kind of isolated so
Hmm.
that I could make sure that I was still working on running the brand and not getting sick and all of that.
Hmm.
And so I had a lot of time at home and I was just going through, my desk and I found that recipe and I was like, it would be kind of interesting to play around with that. And we were, a lot of our business unfortunately had slowed down. And so it was
Mm.
like, well, this would be the perfect time to be like, what else could we make that to
Right.
put out there to number one, create revenue for the brand so that we can survive this
Yeah.
time. But number two, put another product out there that people will love and that they need. And so I knew personally that I wanted soft pretzels, and
Hmm.
we're like a Philly-based brand, and Philly is like known for soft pretzels. But
Hmm.
we put a survey out there to our customers because we've always been very collaborative. Again,
Hmm.
like going back to the greater need and creating this for the greater need of the community.
Hmm.
And so we asked, and that was the number one thing. So I was like, validation, this is what we're
Yeah.
doing. And so that's how we launched that. But yeah, I mean it's hard. I feel like there's never a good time to launch something new, but when it feels right, we just kind of go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And if you do ever add donuts, I'll be first in line because I love donuts.
We were playing with it. We were playing with it. We had an opportunity. We were working with a food service
Mm-hmm.
place, and they wanted an allergen-free donut. And so we were working on a formula with them, and it ended up falling through, and they decided not to continue to pursue that. But we
Hmm.
now have a donut formula
Oh.
in the waiting. We just have to figure out how to scale it and make it. And fun fact, I don't, they were cake donuts that we were working on instead of
Oh.
fried because we didn't want to have to bring in fryers. That's like a whole other world
Right.
of machinery and things that we would have to do. Um, I could not find donut pans like on a large scale
Oh,
that
wow.
weren't like custom made. Yeah. So anyway, it's like those little things that you don't think are
Yeah.
going to be hard to do or to scale that as a manufacturer doing it for the first time, I'm sure they exist and they're out there, but Google only took me so far. And
Hmm.
I thought, that's so interesting. Like I think sometimes you're like, oh, well, how hard could it be? Which is like how I started this. I didn't think
Hmm.
it would be as hard as it was. And,
Hmm.
again, it's like day by day, one step forward. But yeah, like every idea, it's like there's a lot to figure out. And I think as a small brand and a small team, like it can be distracting. But I
Hmm.
do look forward to the day that we have the bandwidth to launch some of these other things that we have. But yes, there's recipes in the waiting. We're
Yay.
just waiting for the right time to continue to pursue it.
Yeah. And like you said, I never even thought about donut pans. Like, yes, of course you would need them. I didn't even think of that. So yeah, there's so many other
Yeah.
steps. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can find donut pans that would fit in your home oven, but to
Right.
get ones that fit on racks and all that, yeah, it was a whole other thing. So anyway, I mean, if anybody knows where to find large
Yeah.
scale donut pans, let me know.
Yeah. So in addition to all, as we talked about earlier, like all the Greater Needs products being, gluten-free and top nine allergen friendly free, what would you say is something that people still don't like understand or get wrong about the gluten-free, allergy-friendly, gut-friendly food?
I mean, one, I think, that it's not going to taste good.
Hmm.
Um, we've really worked hard to make that not be true and that they can taste just like what you remember. And I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of amazing products out there. It's not just us, like the food technology and
Hmm.
science and ingredients and understanding of how things work have just become so much better than what it was when I started.
Hmm.
So I would say that that's a big thing. And but at this point now, like everybody knows somebody with a food allergy. So I
Yeah.
don't get as much of an aversion when I talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, my sister could use a product like this. Whereas in the early days, it was like, why would I want that? I don't like nobody needs to eat that. So
Hmm.
that's definitely gotten better. And then I would say that, sometimes I think like people forget that we are a small team
Hmm.
and we are building this from the ground up. And I think somehow like social media has a way of people like just getting a perception that we're so much bigger or
Hmm.
better or we have it all figured out. And I've really tried to show this like vulnerable side of no, we're just like, I'm just a girl trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
And my team and I are doing this for the first time, and it's a lot of fun. And people are very kind to us. So I don't say that because I like people are mean,
Hmm.
but I just think sometimes people have this perception that we have it all figured out.
Hmm.
And we don't, and we're just kind of learning like everybody else. And that's what's been kind of fun to share that side and connect with people on a more like vulnerable way. I think for
Hmm.
me that's been nice because sometimes, you get to a place where you're like, oh, I have to pretend that I do have it all
Hmm.
figured out,
Hmm.
and I think social media can do that for all of us. We have to pretend that everything's so perfect and we don't share the truth, the reality of like, no, like life is hard for all
Hmm.
of us
Hmm.
and it's okay. We're all going to get through it. And maybe if we can be more vulnerable, we won't feel so alone. So I know that kind of went on a different tangent than what
No,
you were
that was
asking,
great.
but that just inspired that thought for me because it's something that's been very true for us with a lot of the challenges that we've had lately and sharing that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like it's really inspiring, particularly for anyone obviously trying to create their own food brand. But honestly, like you said, just in general, like as anyone's pursuing a goal or just going through life. And like, I think I saw an image the other day that was basically like you and then like your goal and like you think it's going to be like a straight line, right? And then it's like all
Hmm.
the like, it's almost like a hero's journey, you know what I mean? Like you're going through all these
Yes.
different things,
Yeah.
obstacles. So like you said, like sharing that because everyone goes through it. Anyone who's trying to do anything like meaningful goes through it. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes we forget and we compare ourselves to other people that we don't think are having that same experience. And so we
Hmm.
start to say, at least I know for me and the type of person that I am is, oh, well, what's wrong with me? Or like, what am I doing
Hmm.
wrong that
Hmm.
I don't have, that experience that they're having where it's just this rocket ship to the moon. And the
Hmm.
reality is that that might be what they're sharing, and that's fine. Some people only want to share that. That's okay. They don't want to be vulnerable. I understand. Um, but the reality is like we never truly know what someone's experiencing. We're
Hmm.
only getting to see snippets
Hmm.
of other people and their lives and their world. And so comparing yourself to somebody else is just such a, what they say, right, is like the thief of joy because,
Hmm.
and I mean, it truly is, but I still get caught up in that. And I really try to remind myself that like, okay, I'm just a person trying to figure it out. We're all like, we're all just slowly trying to learn one day at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. No, definitely. Very, very true. So something I really admire about the Greater Need is your guys' commitment to like the consumer. I feel like above all else. So like using the real ingredients, not using flavorings, like donating a portion of the proceeds to like organizations that help people with like food insecurity or food allergies, which is really great. Um, would you say that like kind of I know you said that you kind of identify as like an outsider in the food industry. do you say that that helped like shape your vision for what you wanted the Greater Need to be?
Yeah, I feel like when you don't have experience, you have like being naive can be a really good thing in
Hmm.
business, especially if you're entering an industry you know nothing about. It
Hmm.
can be hard in some things where you might oversimplify something that is more complex or whatever, but in some ways of how you choose to build it, being naive to it allows you to have this like fresh perspective. It's like you don't know any better.
Hmm.
And I think not coming from, a big like General Mills background, like I had no consumer goods experience
Hmm.
before this. It did give me this like, well, whatever I decide is like what I can do. I had no rules, no boundaries.
Hmm.
And look, we never really have them, but sometimes we put them on ourselves because we're like, no, this is the way that it has to be
Hmm.
done. Here's the road, here's the playbook, and I have to follow this playbook. And
Hmm.
here's the business plan and I got to stick to it. And I think sometimes what like that kind of comes back to just like going with your gut as well and just sort of building something that feels authentic and it feels right, even when you can't articulate it. And I think
Hmm.
that was really hard for me sometimes because I'd be in a room with a really smart people who were looking out for me and had the best intentions.
Hmm.
And I couldn't necessarily articulate why I thought, no, I want to do it this way. They had so many good reasons as to why to do it that way. And I had to make this decision, like, do I just trust my gut, even though I can't articulate it to these people who are very intelligent and probably know more than I do or know better. But I was like, no, you know what? I need to honor myself. Like they understand. And, hey, like if I make a mistake, at least it's my mistake that I
Hmm.
made and I chose to follow my gut. And so whether that works out or not, I listened to myself. And I think that that was really important to me when I started this journey was, I personally did not, when I start have any partners, I didn't take any investor dollars until I was in business for 10 years because
Hmm.
I didn't want to feel like I had to listen. And I just know
Right.
myself and
Hmm.
I would be like, no, well, I have to. They own a percent of the company. I need to be more collaborative. And I really wanted to be so just stubborn in what I wanted to do. I mean, that like that's sort of, as like bad as that could sound, but I think that that was important for me to like build something that really just felt authentic. And the best way to do that is just trust yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you just said, I think it's really underrated actually when you're growing or building a business, like the power of having that control in the beginning and not necessarily having
Yeah,
like the investor thing, because you're still figuring it out, right? And like you're still building it into the brand, like you said, that like 10 years later, people want to invest in because and if you'd followed what they'd said, like, like you don't know what would have happened, but you probably wouldn't have followed the vision that you wanted. And maybe you would have made more
right.
compromises earlier on just because, like
Yes.
you said, someone else owns, like they did give you money. You know what I mean? Like you can't just do whatever you
Yeah, you
want.
feel
So.
obligated to listen to them. And there is a little bit of an obligation
Hmm.
because if you don't, very quickly they could lose interest. They could call their, loan back or whatever, ask to be paid back depending on the terms that you have. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, what do I do? And
Right.
this has happened to brands. Like this
Right.
isn't something that's very uncommon. Like these things do happen.
Hmm.
But I do think that challenging the status quo, like that's something that small business has the ability to do
Hmm.
is to be disruptive and to think differently. And so if we
Hmm.
follow the playbook of big business, that they might as well just do that. Like let the big business do that. They have their playbook, they launch their brands all the time.
Hmm.
But what you really see, like the true innovation, is
Hmm.
mostly happening from these small entrepreneurs that just have an idea that solve a problem for their family and they stay so laser focused on
Hmm.
no, like not compromising. And those are the ones that are successful. And you even see it with big brands. They have a new CEO or, even the whole like Ben and Jerry's, situation. And now they're getting away from the core of who Ben and Jerry's is and what made them unique. And
Hmm.
so you see examples of it big and small all the time. And
Hmm.
so I think like the lesson here is, yeah, like follow the like gut feeling and then eventually the brand sort of has an ethos and a personality all to its own because of
Hmm.
what you've built. And so then it becomes even easier to be like, no, that's not who the Greater
Right.
Need is. And I think that in the early days, I didn't necessarily have that answer. I knew what I wouldn't compromise on, but now it's like the Greater Need has like, here's our pillars, here's what we stand for.
Hmm.
Like it's very, very clear. And everybody in the company knows. And then what we've worked on with our branding is really making sure that that is also portrayed. And so it's like everybody just knows, like, yes, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. And this is something that the Greater Need, would or wouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, like you said, like you only know that 10 years in, 13 years in, like as you built this brand
Yeah.
and like stayed true for that long, with
Yeah.
everything you do.
Yeah, because there was a lot that I didn't know. I had to learn, like, how do I feel about that? Well, I need
Hmm.
more information, and there were so many things. Like, this isn't necessarily compromising on ingredients or things like that, but there was a lot of people who told me certain things couldn't be done.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Hmm.
well, from what you know,
Hmm.
but maybe there is a way
Hmm.
that someone just hasn't needed to think hard enough about because they
Hmm.
just accept that it can't be done that way.
Right. Right.
And I have so many examples of that. And it's so funny because I will talk to those people, 10 years later, and they're like, I can't believe you actually did it. Like, I remember telling you that it couldn't be done. I really didn't think that it could. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know you didn't think so, but I just knew, like, all right, well, but what if you're wrong? I'm
Right.
not gonna just trust you that it can't be done that way, that it can't be done without compromise, or it won't work on this machine, or we'll never be able to, do both of these things at the same time well, or whatever it was that someone told me couldn't be done. I mean,
Right.
now that's sort of like, oh, really? It can be done? Because I'm
Hmm.
definitely gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. It's like the experts are, like they're experts, whatever, but like they have experience, but it's just because someone says it doesn't mean that it's true. Like, doesn't mean that it's been like
Yeah.
proven in that way. And like, it's like the idea with like running, right? Like they said no one could ever run below a 4-minute mile. And then one person does it. And then multiple people within like a short period of time
Yeah.
do that. And it's like, did we
Yeah.
not do it or did we just say that we couldn't do it?
Yes. It's the
Yeah.
limiting belief, right, that we put on ourselves. And one thing that I remember kind of learning about was when there's things that you want to achieve,
Hmm.
finding examples of it elsewhere in the world.
Hmm.
So if there was different milestones or things that I wanted to achieve within the business, I would find someone who's living that dream or like
Hmm.
has already achieved that, because
Hmm.
it really shows your nervous system like it can be done.
Right.
They
Right.
did it. If they could do it, why can't I do it? If
Right.
they could get there, why couldn't I get there? And I
Right.
think we do need sometimes those examples because, yeah, our brains are always trying to keep us safe
Hmm.
from harm and rejection and failure. And so if it can put you in a little box and keep you safe, it will,
Right.
then. And so you really have to work hard to be like, okay, we are safe, but we're gonna try this. It's scary, but like we're
Right.
gonna be okay. This isn't life or death, but it's very interesting. And that goes, like, I've learned a lot about like just neuroscience and
Hmm.
all of that, because I think a lot, as being an entrepreneur, it is a lot of like stretching that thinking
Hmm.
and that limiting belief, and what most people would be like, oh, I could never
Hmm.
do, right? And I was one of those people. And I thought, I want to change that. Like, there's this part of me that just has this dream and really
Right.
wants to do it. And I'm so scared, but maybe I could do it. And maybe I could find examples of people doing that. And that will help make me feel better. And I think that is why I am so vulnerable about how hard it is, but that we're doing it anyway. And that,
Hmm.
like, you can, like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are
Hmm.
passionate enough and you follow your gut, like, you can make your dreams happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I think if you, like you're saying, if you just like work hard and believe and kind of stay the course, like not obviously get advice, like you said, it's great. Like you should ask people advice and
Yeah.
all of that, but just to like trust your gut, trust your instinct, and remember that like what worked for someone else, or like kind of like the idea of like their anointing isn't necessarily yours. And so like you can do
Yeah.
something different and keep going
Yeah, and
at it.
get to the same result. Yeah, 100%. I think, like, being so authentically you, like, that's what we were put here to be, is just
Hmm.
like our authentic selves. And sometimes we just try to be and do what worked for other people, and
Hmm.
it's so against like who we are.
Hmm.
Like, I even had people, that were trying to give me pointers on negotiating. And I really was like, yeah, I need to be a better negotiator. I need to be like this, and I need to hide what the truth is about this and let them give me the number first. And then I was like, that's just not how I do business, though.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Hmm.
do I really even want to work with people who are like hiding the price. So I got to give them a higher price. They give me a lower
Right.
and we meet in the middle. Like, can't we just say this is the price because this is how I make money? And like, if that doesn't work for you, then okay, this
Right.
doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I just thought, do I need to change and be better at negotiating like that? Or do I need to do business with people who negotiate like me? And I
Right.
spent a long time trying to change myself and it didn't feel great and it never worked out great for me. And I always walked away with like, oh, I shouldn't have worked with that person. I knew it from the beginning, it just wasn't aligned. And so now I really trust that. Like, if I can't be just like upfront with my numbers, I gotta like play a game. I don't like games. Some people are really great at them. Like, go for it. But it's just not for me.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of stuff that I think for a period of time I started to compromise on, and I wasn't happy.
Hmm.
And I definitely was thinking like, God, do I still want to do this? Do I still like, wow, I've been doing this for a long time. I didn't intend necessarily to do this for this long. I didn't really have like an end date, but it
Right.
definitely 13 years feels really long. And I think what I started to realize is I'm feeling burnout because I'm compromising on
Mm.
trying to change who I think I need to be to get to this next level.
Hmm.
And like I said, this year has been all about getting back to the core of like who I was when I first started, when like anything was possible and
Right.
I had a chip on my shoulder and, no one was going to tell me like how to do something. I was going to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like to your point, like the obstacles along the way will make you try to think that like, oh, well, maybe you should, change this or compromise or
Oh,
give up.
100%.
Always,
Yeah. It
always. And
takes so much like mental fortitude to be like stay the course, right? Yeah,
right.
like just as much as there's examples of people that you could see who have achieved what you want to achieve, there's also
Right.
going to be examples of that maybe you're wrong, maybe you should have listened to them. Oh,
Hmm.
please. That has happened to me so many times and I've fallen victim to it. I mean, I'm not perfect and I as much as I know and can, you know, talk about this,
Hmm.
it still happens, I'm still like, I still sometimes revert back to this like safe, like, okay, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have done
Right.
that, learned my lesson, okay. And I think that the goal is just to always like stay the course and just really trust yourself. And, yes, there might be a setback, but don't take it as like, oh, I did like that wasn't the right choice. It's
Right.
just like, okay, that wasn't necessarily maybe the right opportunity, but what you did was still correct. And like keep
Right.
doing that. Keep showing up that way. If it feels authentic, don't change that. And
Right.
I did for a very long time.
Yeah, but it's kind of like that idea of like on the other side of fear, like is the thing that you want, right? And like pushing through that and like still going forward, and
Yeah.
not giving in to like you said, like the voice. It's like, oh, but like I don't know, like it's not working the way that I thought, so maybe I'll just,
Right.
like I feel
Yeah.
like,
Why
yeah,
is
just
this
sticking,
taking so much longer? Like I said, I mean, one
right,
of the big tracks in my head is, Michelle, why is this taking so longer to get where you're going? I don't even know where I'm going, by the
right,
way.
yeah, right,
But I just like I always said, like I'll know when I get there. And I'm like, it's so silly. Like I've always just had, oh, I want to get to our first $1 million in business. And we got there and then that wasn't enough. Now it's like, no, I
hmm,
need to get to here. And so it's a constant moving target, which
right,
isn't very nice to do to
right,
myself, right?
right,
Like
right,
I don't allow myself to like achieve something and be just, oh yeah, okay, I
yeah,
did what I thought to do. And now when I look back, I'm like, I did every single thing that I've wanted to do. And
right,
wow. And that's what success really should feel like, not
right,
how much money is, in the bank or how, what I can pay myself or how much revenue the company does, but like, what is the impact? Like when we get back to what
right,
we talked about in the beginning, creating food for this community, having more safe options, like we are doing that. I have
right,
achieved what I set out to do. We have arrived. Like we've done it. We have a facility. We're doing it safely. Like wow, that's pretty cool, right? But
yeah,
sometimes we tie ourselves to like what success
right,
should look like or what it might look like to other people. And we just go, oh, that, I haven't
right.
gotten there yet.
Right. Right. And I mean, I feel like especially whenever you're like you said, like you're reading even about someone that you're like, okay, like they did it, I can see it, but it misses those parts, right? Where like they were like, oh, I don't know, or like, they were kind of
Yeah,
uncertain and stuff like that. Cause it's like a short magazine article. You know what I mean? It's like the cover of
right.
Forbes. We're not going in. We don't
Yeah.
have
Like
all
how
that
many
time.
times did they almost give up
Right.
that, you're just not seeing in that article or that post? Yeah.
Right.
I think that happens like I have those thoughts all the time. Like, oh, maybe this really could be it. Like, oh, if I don't figure this out, it could all be over. But now I'm kind of like, well, you know what? It was a great ride. Like whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. I'm just going to keep doing what we're doing and
Right.
stay true to myself. If I can have joy and be so just authentically us and follow my gut, then like whatever happens is I'm totally good with because
Right.
I know that that's all just what was meant to be, you
Yeah.
know? But some days that's easier said than done. You know, there's definitely days where I'm like, no, like I don't want this to all be over. And I'm not saying that it is, but there's days that it feels like that. Like, wow, that we weren't expecting to lose that retailer
Mm.
or, you know,
Hmm.
have this huge setback or have this machine break and now what do we do?
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. It's like you were saying earlier, like you kind of think, I feel like when you first have a goal, like, oh, like once I get this goal, like there's not going to be any problems. And then you realize, like, actually, there's always
Right.
something. But that's actually kind of the beauty of it, too. I think you said earlier, like, that's the beauty is like you're making so much progress that there are new problems. Like, it's a blessing almost to have
Yes.
those problems, right? Because you're like, wait, that means I'm progressing and I've reached these goals. Which and like I feel
Yeah.
like the plan always ends up being better than what you thought, even if it's like different and you're like, oh, like I didn't know I was gonna have pretzels. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously you started
Yeah.
with bagels, but like wow, like that's incredible to just see the growth and everything.
Yeah, I think being flexible is another important thing and like strong in your convictions, but flexible in how you get there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That is the advice. That's that's really
That
perfect.
just
um,
came to me.
right. Yeah. So kind of going back a little bit to the customers, what would you say like surprised you the most about the Greater Need customers when you first launched?
Just how loyal and thankful that they truly are. I mean, the
Hmm.
messages that we get, like that truly is what keeps me going. Like
Hmm.
I could get emotional if I talk about it too much because the days sometimes are hard and
Hmm.
long. And when I connect with a customer at a trade show or at a demo or just via email or somebody even calls or a chat, like I answer the chats on our website.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I am still very connected to that because I need that. I need to
Right.
hear that somebody likes what we're doing and the stories of just, you know, like the pictures of a kid having their bagel, like a bagel for the first time ever in their
Wow.
life because they've had, you know, food allergies since they were
Right.
born and they finally feel like, oh, look, I'm having a bagel with the rest of my family that's been eating
Right.
bagels since I was little and I always had to have like a pancake or, you know, whatever was
Yeah.
available. And those are the things that surprised me the most and just how thankful, grateful, and just sweet and understanding. You know, like we right now, we've got a lot of products out of stock on our website. We're definitely going through it with some growth pains.
Hmm.
And we've had machinery issues that are just compounding. So we've had like additional growth, which is a beautiful problem. But then machinery issues, so it's
Right.
compounding it. And then we've
Right.
got the
Right.
holidays, and I always try to give my team off between
Hmm.
Christmas and New Year. That's so important to me as
Hmm.
like a reset and family time. And we're like, we really can't afford to do it, but we're just gonna do it because
Yeah.
whatever, you know. But how understanding that our community and our consumers have been is just, it's so beautiful. And like it truly feels like a collaboration and an extension. And I feel them with me when I'm doing stuff. And like we even named like our customer, her name is Taylor. We have a picture of her on the wall in our
Oh
office
wow.
because it's just so important for me. Like, and we have like this persona of who Taylor is. Like she's got two kids, one has peanut allergy, she has celiac disease, and somebody else has like a dairy intolerance, right? And like this is what we're, and she's busy and she's running them around and she's trying to buy for the family and she needs solutions that are, you know, safe for everybody because she just doesn't have time
Right.
and it's so hard to find things that are safe. And so I feel like that's truly who our people are, and this is what we're doing it all for.
Yeah.
And their messages are really what fuels me.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, I feel like it's so like underestimated how like food kind of brings us together and how if you can't have
Yeah.
something when everyone's eating a bagel or everyone's snacking or whatever, like especially as a kid,
Yeah.
I feel like how you can feel kind of left out or feel a
Oh,
little
I can't
weird. So
imagine being a kid. Yeah, like I
yeah.
didn't start to have to eat, you know, differently until I was in college.
Right.
And I even still, and I'm like a grown adult, I still sometimes feel weird. at a restaurant having
Mm.
to list all the things that I can't
Right,
have.
right.
Like, and I can't imagine being a child and having to do that and in front of your peers. And
Right,
it, it's so much and it's so isolating. And there is research that shows when you first get diagnosed, there's like an initial like sort of freedom, happiness that happens because you finally have answers.
right.
And then mental health really starts to decline
Mm,
after that.
hmm.
And like the Celiac Disease Foundation has done studies on it, FAIR, which does food allergy research. There's studies out there, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it happens where there's this depression, that
Right.
this decline, and it is because of that. It's very isolating.
Hmm.
And I definitely don't lose sight of that. Like I know firsthand, and I don't have anaphylactic allergies, so like
Hmm.
my heart just breaks for people who really have a
Yeah.
level of fear that is truly life or death. That is so scary. That is
Hmm.
so scary to have a child
Hmm.
like that, but then to also be that person too, dealing
Hmm.
with that is just, oh, like, so to be able to, like, it's such a pleasure to be able to create products for that community who truly needs it the most, you know? I
Right.
mean, and I really just feel so grateful that I've found that path with
Hmm.
food. Because I could have made anything, but it just so happened with the celiac disease and this and
Hmm.
that. And I'm just so grateful for like being put here to do that and to feel brave enough to make some small impact,
Yeah.
you know, for that community and keep pushing.
Yeah. And I feel like, it's bringing people joy. Like they can eat things, like I was saying, like the pretzels, like I can eat them, right? And I couldn't have them
Yeah.
for a period of time. So, I mean, it's really incredible, like bringing people joy in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just something about that. I think that that's specifically why we were like bagels, pretzels.
Right.
You know, I could have made some like new innovative product, but it was about like connecting with a favorite childhood memory or a
Hmm.
very nostalgic type product
Hmm.
that you've just missed and you've had to go without. Because sometimes it's like when you know what it tastes like, you're almost like, gosh, maybe it would
Yeah.
have been better to just never have had it because you
Right.
know what you're missing. And I really feel that, you know, I personally was struggling with that. And I'm like, no, like I can't go through life and like never have another bagel or never,
Right.
you know, watch my sister and my grandfather like never be able to eat another bagel on Sundays when we were like that was one of our rituals.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So how, I guess we kind of talked about it, like feeling included, feeling like joy. I guess, is there any other way you want people to feel when they have a Greater Need product?
I mean, I think that those words really sum it up. I think the joy and like safe, included, I think that that really articulates what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, like satiated and like happy that the taste and texture delivers.
Hmm.
But I think that really around the joy and the inclusion and the safety, I wanted to just feel like home and like comfort. You know, like
Hmm.
really like, okay, you're like number one fan, whoever that is in your life, your mom, your dad, sibling, aunt, uncle, whatever, right? That person that really took care of you. Like, I want you to think that that's us. Like, we are your
Right.
family
Right.
and we are taking care of you. And this product, like, we made it with so much love for you and we took all this care. And I really feel like you can get that from food. And I get such a like, um, just so much like happiness from
Hmm.
sharing our products with the world. And so to have somebody be able to like feel that same level of joy and happiness in consuming it, like this was made for me, you know, that's what I want people to walk away with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What would
Thank
you
you.
say excites you the most about the future of like gluten-free, gut-friendly, allergy-friendly food and CPG?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's great that our eyes are open more than ever on the ingredients. And I will continue to keep doing my part of sharing like the behind the scenes of what really goes into food. But there's the conversations are already happening
Hmm.
of like, what do they ban in other countries? Maybe we should look
Mm,
at that in the US. And so I love that conversation. I think at the same time, you know, it's a balance of like food technology can be really great and
hmm.
advancements in science and different ingredients or extracting like now there's a new ingredient that I'm seeing a lot that they use a lot in Europe, which is bamboo fiber, which can be
Mm,
very interesting, but that's not like a natural thing that you could like find, right? I
mm,
mean, you have to extract that through a process and
mm-hmm,
just have the fiber. So I feel like science can be really great. And so like let's sort of find that balance of doing the due diligence to make sure that it is safe and we're not creating some like crazy experiment that really isn't good for us, but
mm-hmm,
where can we find things in nature and extract those in a way that's safe but also provides like a really great advancement in allergen-free food. Um, and then I would say just for the next generation of like CPG brands coming up and people thinking of ideas like do it. Like if you have an idea, you see a gap in the marketplace, like this is truly where change is made. And this is why we're seeing all of these conversations happening now. And some of these great brands, started in their home kitchen. And so just know that like if you're sitting on something that you
mm-hmm.
really have this calling to or are excited about, you're solving a problem, start taking those early steps. Like it's not as hard as you think to just start to prove the concept.
Right.
Farmers markets exist for a reason. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
social media is a great way to get feedback and get the word out there. So I think what's really exciting about now is that it's a lot easier to spread the word
right.
with social media than ever before.
Mm-hmm,
And people are very willing to connect with a founder-led brand over
mm-hmm,
a large, CPG conglomerate. So I think it's a very exciting time for new innovation and new ideas, disruptive ideas, but also getting back to just like more natural stuff. Like it
mm-hmm.
doesn't need to last for 6 months and do all of these things and never get mold and stay soft forever, right? So I think it's like getting back to just like really quality ingredients is also something that I'm excited for the future of CPG.
Yeah. Is there any like other advice you'd give to someone who's like dreaming of maybe starting their own food brand?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to just start to prove the concept. I think that's the best advice that I could think of. The sooner that you get it out there, like
Mm-hmm,
perfection is the enemy of done. And
mm-hmm,
you've got to get it out there. You got to start getting feedback. If you've got this burning idea, like it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be perfect.
mm-hmm,
You can just have
mm-hmm,
a little focus group. Like, let's say your product really targets kids. Like, okay, you've got kids of yourself. Maybe you bring it to your kids like soccer practice,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And just start, hey, like can you guys give me feedback on this? I'm creating this product for kids. I'm trying to think of things like just the sooner that you can start to share it with others, get feedback, see how people are reacting, iterate from there. You want to get that validation. That's the best way to move forward.
mm-hmm,
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like people are always like, well, I have to find a kitchen and I got it. Like,
mm,
just be honest with people. Like, hey, I made this sample in my kitchen. Obviously, if it's a allergen-free product, you want to be really transparent about that stuff. But again, it like doesn't need to be perfect.
right.
You just need to prove that you've got something here. One to yourself, like then
Mm-hmm,
I think that helps to give you the courage to say, okay, yeah, there's really something here. You'll
mm-hmm,
know after sharing it. And I think that would be my number one advice if you're like thinking about starting, but you haven't like, maybe you have a recipe or you have an idea, like just start playing around in the kitchen. You don't need to find the manufacturer who's going to be able to make thousands of them for you because a lot of us do get stuck on those details.
mm-hmm,
Because that stuff, look, you got to figure those things out eventually, but
right.
just not today, not today.
Yeah.
Today it's just like get off the ground, get it up and running, prove the concept and have fun. Like have fun from day one until the last day that you do it. Like have fun with it. Make
Mm-hmm,
sure that it like enlivens you. We only get one life. Like do things that you're really passionate about. Like
mm-hmm,
don't waste time. If it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel authentic, like keep iterating until it does. But like have fun. Like
mm-hmm,
nothing's that serious. Like
mm-hmm,
like enjoy your life still. Like make sure
mm-hmm.
that you build something for yourself that you can really enjoy your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like also to that point, like kind of celebrating as you go, like not only celebrating
Yeah.
when you hit like the
When you hit the
biggest,
milestones, yeah,
right.
I'm definitely like a number one offender of that. And it's something that I'm trying to bring more into my life. And and into 2026 is like a big goal for myself of, yeah, just celebrating along the way
Hmm.
and like lowering the stakes, lowering the like, what is the definition of success? Like, can't success just be you started like that? Okay, yay, let's celebrate that. You have a
Right.
product, you got it to in front of your first person who sampled it. And that could be your mom, your sister, your friend. You just shared it with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, I think like lowering our expectations that we have to like achieve all of these things in order to be worthy of moving to the next step or being successful. Like, I think that's very important point to make of celebrating along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been great. It's time actually for the rapid fire. I know we could talk, honestly, I could keep talking to you
Okay.
about everything else all day, but I know we have to
Yeah, this
get
has
to
been a
that.
great conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so whatever comes to your mind when I ask the rapid fire.
Okay.
First question, sweet or savory?
Savory.
Go to gluten-free or gut-friendly or both snack.
Ooh, I really like Simple Mills.
Ooh,
Like all their snacks are so
right.
good. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've seen them at the store. I'll have to like, yeah, I have to get on
Yeah,
that.
they've got some good almond flour crackers and stuff that I was just thinking about, like, oh, I need to get more. So
Yeah. What's the food hill you die on?
don't overcook your pasta.
That's true. That's true. That's a good advice. That's good advice.
That could be so bad.
Yeah. What's the food that instantly feels like home?
I mean, bagels. Like,
Yeah.
I know that that's cliche, but like it's true.
I mean, when you had bagel Sundays, I think it's fair. I think that's a fair answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
100%.
what's the most underrated ingredient?
Well, specifically in the world of gluten-free,
Hmm.
because that's kind of where I do a lot of my baking. I would say if you are gluten-free and you bake yourself and you haven't come across psyllium husk or used it,
Mm.
it is a fiber
Hmm.
and it does a lot of really great things
Mm.
in gluten-free baking. So that would be one to look at.
I need to look at that because I do bake and I haven't used that before.
Yes, specifically, you've got to prehydrate it and make a
Mm.
slurry.
Okay.
So Google that. Psyllium husk slurries for gluten-free.
Okay. I literally do that when we get off today. What's the grocery store aisle that maybe you stay in a little bit too long?
Spices. I have like a
Mm.
weird addiction to, I have like every spice that you could imagine, and I have a
Oh.
problem. Like I keep buying them. Yeah, that spice aisle, I just really like.
That's funny. What's the best gluten-free food that like people maybe don't realize is gluten-free?
Um, what don't people realize? I mean, I'm always surprised when people forget that like rice and potato and corn
Mm.
as
Mhm.
grains or starches are all naturally gluten free.
Right.
I guess I just take it for granted that I just understand what gluten is.
Hmm.
So that one always surprises me that like, yes, you can have rice and potatoes and corn. Like there's still a lot that you can have
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. And what is your favorite The Greater Need product?
in everything bagel.
Okay. Okay. Good
Yeah,
choice. Yeah.
that's what I grew up eating. So I love the savory. I mean, that just goes with the savory.
Hmm. Hmm.
I love the garlic, the onion, the
Mm.
poppy. Yeah,
Yum.
even if it means getting poppy seeds stuck in my teeth, like it's fine.
That's funny. So I always like to close these with the final question. So, growing up, like my dad, he always would say, whether about like food or like people or life, that it should be good to you, good for you, and good with you. When it comes to like gluten-free, gut-friendly eating, what does that mean to you?
Um, that I think, it should obviously be nourishing, but I think there's this level of like intuitive eating too, like giving your body what it needs and
Hmm.
try not hyper fixating over if it is the cleanest thing that you could possibly put in your body. Like there's a balance
Hmm.
to be had with all of this. And this whole conversation that we had is like, hey, yeah, most of the time, eat these things that are really nourishing, but also nourish your soul and like so nourish all parts of you
Hmm.
and be looking out for all of that. So it's okay to have some treats and some things that maybe wouldn't be in your diet all the time.
Hmm.
And that, yeah, like life is meant and food is meant to be enjoyed. And finding that balance and doing that.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
No, I feel like we've put everything out on the table. No, this is great. I think the questions were amazing. So thank you for letting me share my story.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing it with us. It was really great to hear everything about like the Greater Need and its journey and your mission, and really the commitment you have to like the gluten-free, allergen-free, gut-friendly community. For everyone who wants to learn more about the Greater Need, you can go to thegreaternead.com and follow them on Instagram and TikTok at the Greater Need.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Eat with Dominique. Conversations like this with Michelle are exactly why I started the podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're always searching for gluten-free, allergy-friendly products, this might be your sign to try the Greater Need. As part of our Eat with Dominique community, you can use code EATWithDominique15, the number 15, all lowercase, for 15% off your order. The link and code are in the description. If you end up ordering, tag me or message me. I love seeing what you're trying. And if you have a gluten-free, allergy-friendly, or gut-sensitive friend who needs better options, send this episode their way. We'd love to have them. This podcast is all about actionable tips, trustworthy brands, and real strategies to make gluten-free, gut-friendly living easier, tastier, and pain-free. So remember, whether it's life or food, make sure it's always good to you, good for you, and good with you. I'll see you soon.